artists. Today we are going to be doing a colored pencil drawing of a cardinal, and the materials you'll need today are a pencil. I'm using this H pencil, but if you have just a normal, yellow pencil, that's fine too. You'll need an eraser. You can also grab various colored pencils. So the colors I have today are white, red. This is a lighter red color. I'm using Prismacolor. They create a really beautiful application of like creamy color consistency. This one's called raspberry. I have a brown, terracotta, and a black. So starting out, we are going to do a sketch. So using your pencil, you can start out by doing a sketch. I'm going to put my bird kind of a little bit towards the left side of the paper so we can incorporate some other things in the background. So I'm going to start out with a really light pressure sketch, a circle for the head. And this is going to be a baby bird, so I'm going to make him a little bit more plump and a little more chubby looking. So the next thing you're going to do is an oval shape. So this is for the head, and this one is for the body. And then we can add the feathers on the top of the head. So from the top right corner of the head, you're going to do a curved line towards the left. And then from the top of that curved line, you're going to do a line connecting to the left side of our circle. So they have these like really kind of, it looks almost like a mohawk sticking on the top of their head. And then we are going to run along the back side of, this is kind of where the back wing would be, and then curve off towards the left. From the bottom here, kind of if you imagine cutting this in four, kind of a quarter of that, you're going to do a diagonal straight line going out towards the left. Now since it's a baby, it's a little bit shorter. If you were doing more of an adult version, it would be a little bit longer and the body would be elongated too. And then we can connect the top line and the bottom line with a short vertical straight line. So now we are getting into the beak. So the beak is going to be on the kind of middle part of this circle at the top. So find the middle and then move over to the right. You can do a short horizontal straight line. So it's about halfway inside the circle and halfway out. And then you are going to do a short diagonal straight line from the end of that line up towards the top left. And another short straight line from there to the bottom left. To complete our beak, you are going to connect, it almost looks like an arrow, so you're going to connect the top of the arrow with the left side of the line and also the same on the bottom. Now I'm going to press a little bit harder if you need to outline the beak. And now we can go on to the cute little feet. So you're going to do two really short little lines. And we'll get back to the feet because we'll talk about different ways that you can have it standing on something, for example a branch or a rock or something. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to outline. So we started with a light pressure, now we're pressing down just a little bit harder, and you're going to outline the contour, which again is the outline of our cardinal's body. So from the beak going up towards the top left for the feathers on the top of the head, going back the the back side of the head, down the back of the wing, connected to the tail. And also you're going to go underneath the beak right here. Now we don't want to do this line, we're going to erase those, so you're going to curve around for the belly. And the last line we want to do is the area where we have the tail, the wing. So right here, you're going to start with a curved line, curving slightly out towards the right, going over to the left, and then it's just going to meet where the tail is. So that's its wing kind of up against its body there resting. So now that we have the harder line, we can go in with our eraser and get rid of those light sketches. The two lines between the head and the body, the curved line on the top of the head. You can erase in between the beak, and then also the curve of the body inside the wing. So we have a super cute drawing. So now we want to do the eye. Now, if you want to do a kind of more realistic eye, it's going to be smaller. Birds have pretty beady eyes, so it's going to be a small circle like that. If you want to make it more cartoon-like, more of a cuter version, you're going to make the eyes bigger. So that's something that a lot of animators and illustrators do when they're creating characters. So if you make the eye bigger, it makes it look like it's younger, cuter. So you can decide which version you like. And then we're going to add some highlights in the eyes. So you're going to do a really small circle kind of in the top left corner. And then we want to create, it almost looks like they're wearing this black mask, like a superhero mask. So for this, I'm going to use a harder pressure. So just above the beak, you're going to do a short diagonal straight line towards the eye. It's going to curve up and around the eye. From the end of that line, you are going to do a short diagonal straight line towards the eye. A curved line curving down. And then you want this line to meet where we have this pointed line, so curving down this way. So this whole entire area here, up until the beak, is going to be black. So we don't get confused, we can go right in with the black colored pencil now. Also, so some of you may not have colored pencils. It's totally fine if you use markers. This lesson we're going to be focusing on texture and space, and so colored pencil is a great way to create texture with your drawings. So texture is, the definition of texture is the tactile quality of the surface. So, you know, if you touch your paper, it's soft, versus if you touch your hair, it's a different type of feeling, versus if I touch the table here. So texture is basically what it feels like to the touch. So artists use texture to, you know, so when artists are looking at something that's realistic, if they want to really make the illusion of it as a drawing and turn it into something that's almost like real life, texture is a big thing that they'll pay attention to. So, you know, creating the texture of the feathers we're going to get into today. So as I'm talking, I'm just going and outlining my black mask I also like to outline the eye, and then you can just go right in. And this one I'm using a hard pressure. You can tell I'm pressing really hard. I'm even getting little bits of my pencil breaking. That's fine, you can just brush it off. Alright, so while we have this black here, we are also going to do just a defined line here between the top and the bottom beak. And then we can also even do with a medium pressure curved line under the wing. That way we get a little bit of shadow. So I'm not pressing super hard, it's almost like a very dark gray, charcoal gray color. And I'm shading underneath the wing here. I'm also going to do a little lighter pressure and leave a little bit of space between here and where the neck would be. And I'm just going to do a little curved line of black to show that the wing is up against the bottom of the neck there. And that's all for the black. So we have created our line drawing to build the shape of our cardinal bird, and now we're going to get into coloring the wings and the body. So I chose, for the body, you're going to need white, red, darker red, and almost like a pink. It's a raspberry color. So I'm going to start out just with the red. Okay. And so we are going to shade. So when you're shading, when you're filling in an area, rather than holding your pencil up to the ceiling, you want to hold it closer to the paper. And some artists can, after you have a lot of practice, you can actually hold it really close to the bottom of your pencil, and that way this whole entire area here you're using to color in. And so you can tell I can go really quickly in the bigger sections, but whenever I get close to the edges, I don't want to go too crazy all over the place. So that's another type of way of drawing, but for today we're doing realistic, so we're going to have a little more control. I slow down and I follow the curved lines of that area. So the curve of the belly, I'm curving the same direction. So that's going to help with really getting that effect of it being more realistic. So this is light to medium pressure. You can tell because you can still see a little bit of the white of the paper under. And we are creating a mid-tone, so we're creating a base of color, and then we're going to build it up using different pressures with our red and our raspberry colored pencil. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is we are going to use a harder pressure, and I'm just going to create some areas where there'd be kind of more shadow. So underneath the wing here, we would definitely have some shadow on the belly. So you're going to press down a little bit harder. Okay, bump up the saturation, which is the how colorful the color is. So a color that's not very saturated is very pastel. So my fingernails, they're painted lilac, which is a light purple, so that's kind of a less saturated color, versus a darker purple, which has more saturation. So you can bump up the red on the bottom of the belly, also on the bottom of the tail here. And now getting into some texture, I want to create some lines here using hard pressure for the tail, so I can see the different tail feathers there. Okay, next we're going to go along the back of the wing. So I am layering this red right on top of my black color that I used, and that is going to, you know, kind of combine all the colors together. Also, if you didn't see me do it right here, yeah, you can add red right on top of the black. So it's a tinted version. Okay. And then I'm also going to do a little bit of a darker red right here where the head connects to the body. Okay. So before we introduce the other color, the raspberry color, we can go ahead and use a harder pressure with our pencil. So you can tighten up your grip on your pencil. And we are going to create the texture of the wings. So wings have this beautiful curved formation. So I'm starting out close to the top of the wing, kind of near the neck. I'm doing a straight line kind of at a diagonal, and then I'm curving it towards the left. So I start out shorter. Okay, this is like a teardrop shape. So in the more fat areas of the teardrop, it's going to be shorter lines, and then as we get into this middle section, it's going to be longer. Now don't worry about doing it exactly the same as mine. You know, all of ours are going to be a little bit different, which is the beautiful part about our art. Just like we all have different types of handwriting, we all have different types of mark making in our artwork. So I'm going to do another layer of wings right below. Okay. And now we can also add just along the top of the head here, so right where the end of this short diagonal straight line is, add a bit of color going up towards the point. Okay. And then we want to add little feathers coming out the top of the head to make it look super fluffy. So, you know, usually baby animals are, you know, fuzzy or fluffy. Think about a puppy. It has a really fuzzy kind of texture to it, and birds, baby birds, are really fluffy. So you're going to do little tiny lines. So these you can play around with gestural, energetic lines. So we've been very controlled in the application of color. Right here, you can almost like, you want to flick your wrist so that you can get a really quick line. So that's just going to add some feathers coming out the top there. And now we are going to go on to our raspberry color. So you can put the red to the side, that raspberry or pink if you have that. And we're going to add another color here. So when you're starting out as an artist, sometimes, you know, you think of things as as you learn them when you're little. So a tree is green, or the cloud is white, or the sky is blue. A cardinal is red, but when you really start looking closer, you can see so much more detail and color in different things, and that's really one of the strengths of artists, is they have the ability to see and pay more attention to those little things and those little details, and then they bring those beautiful little magical colors and details to life in their artwork, and they're able to showcase that to everyone, which is really cool. So I've added some of this raspberry color here right on the head, and then I'm also going to just add it on the bottom half of the wings. So I'm just adding a slightly different color here. Okay, and then also right under the mask, and then lastly on the tail. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is get into highlights. So I'm going to use white. And with white, what we're doing is we are using an opaque color. So white, it's a really creamy consistency. It's opaque is the opposite of transparent, so it is not see-through. And so we are using white to enhance certain areas and really make it look more 3D. So for our white, we're going to use it along the top of the head. Oops. And white is also really great because it starts to blend the colors together, and you'll get some real nice color mixtures. So you can see the difference between this area, which is a little bit more rough in texture, to where we add the white on top, and it becomes real nice and blended. I'm also going to add some white to, let's add some white to the back of the head here. And then we're also going to do a little bit of white along the front of the belly. So again, you're pressing down really hard using a hard pressure. And then you can also use white in the wing. So I'm using white, see the difference with the white versus without, so I'm using it in between those lines that I created to show the different feathers in the wing. Okay, let's see, anywhere else? Let's also add a little bit of white underneath this shadow. Let's add some white along the end of the wing here, and also little bits of it inside the tail. All right, so the last thing we want to do for the body, I'm going back to the red here, and anywhere where we have this kind of rough texture still versus the smooth texture, I'm just gonna add more red. So this is where we're just gonna bump up the saturation, make it super bright and colorful. And don't be afraid to go into the areas where you already added white. By doing that, you're actually going to create a more seamless transition in color. Okay, and so that's it for the body. What we want to do next is hop over to the beak. So this one, I'm just going to use my red, but I'm going to use really, really light pressure. Coloring in that triangle shape for the beak. And then I'm going to go back to my white colored pencil and add a highlight. So I have a highlight along the top of the head here and the front part of the chest. So the light is coming from the top right side. So I'm also going to use that white along the top of the beak here. And a little swipe right underneath the black. Now, if you wanted to introduce a little bit more of a warmer color, let's see, let me grab, sorry about that, should have told you to grab, you can grab like a yellow, this golden yellow is really good, or an orange, and we are just going to do a thin layer of that on top of the beak, just to show the difference in color between the beak and the body. So you see it becomes a little bit warmer, more kind of like a sunshine color. All right, so for the eye, in the pictures that we were looking at, the eyes are very dark. There's almost like a white outline around the eye before it gets to the dark black. So we can start out by just using our white. You're not really going to be able to see this, but you can do a white circle inside the outline of the eye. And then going back to your black, first I want to outline that small highlight circle. We don't even need to color it in because we'll just leave it as the white of the paper. And then I'm going to go on top of the middle part and around, and since you put some white there, you won't really be able to fully get it black. And that's really what brings our cute little birdie together. Ah, so cute. Okay, so for the background, this is where you guys can get creative and add your own types of colors, textures, landscape. I'm going to teach you how to do a branch, but if you wanted to do, you know, a rock, maybe it's on the edge, there's a pond here, or it's in a field of flowers, or it's on top of someone's head. You guys can totally come up with whatever you'd like. But I'm just gonna go in with a brown. So the brown I'm using, it's terracotta. It's kind of like a more reddish brown. And you can just sketch whatever kind of design you like for your branch. So maybe it's straight out from the left side of the paper. Maybe it's going across the entire paper. Maybe it's a little bit more curved. So choose what you'd like for that. I'm gonna do the branch coming from the left side here, curving in. Once you touch the bird's tail, just hop over it. And then I'm just going to continue and bring it up towards the middle. So just starting out with a curved line for a branch. And then what we can do is you can determine how thick you want that branch. I'm going to do mine pretty thin, so I'm just going to leave a little bit of space in between. And when you get to the end, see how it tapers, so it's going to come to a point here. Now you can use, you know, whatever color you chose. You can even do, you know, fantastical colors like a rainbow branch. There's actually trees that are rainbow in color. Maybe blue, you know, maybe purple, whatever color you want. You can be creative. Okay. And then I'm going to use, again, what we learned with highlight and shadow. So I'm going to use a little bit of black along the bottom of the branch because the light's not going to hit there as much. And this is really light. I don't want it too dark because I don't like to do an outline. A full outline, if I did black around the whole thing, it would look kind of more cartoon-like, which is cool. That's totally a style if you want to play around with. But that does flatten it, and we're trying to make it more realistic. Back to the white. Okay. Do some white along the top of the branch. And then a lot of the pictures that I looked at, it was the cardinals were hanging out on these branches with these beautiful red berries. So I'm going to use that, and I'm going to just do 3 circles. You know, you can add these wherever you'd like, but just some berries. A few berries there. Maybe I'll just do like one over here, wherever you want to sprinkle those berries on. And then you can fill those in lightly. And then what really makes them come to life is that white highlight. So I'm going to do a little bit of white along the top left kind of area. Okay. If you want to add any leaves, you know, you can grab, you know, any green color for some leaves. Leaves various sizes, so they're going to be curved lines connecting, you know, larger ones here. However you want to create your foliage, your greenery for the area that your cardinal is seated on. One thing I should say is things do look good in 3s, so 3s and 5s, they just seem to balance each other out really nicely. So yeah, that's pretty much it for our cardinal lesson. Again, for the background, think about, you know, when I'm thinking about a background, the first thing I want to decide is if it's going to be based off reality or based off of something from my imagination. So that's the first thing. And then if it's reality, I go into the time of day. So is this bird overlooking the sunrise? Is it, you know, in a bright blue sky? Is it raining? You know, is it the evening with the full moon in the background? So, you know, think about those different things to influence your piece. And then for your imagination, really anything goes. So that's where you can really become creative. I like to use a lot of things that, you know, I experience in my dreams, and I will use them into my artwork. So great job today with our cardinal, and feel free to, let me know if you have any other suggestions, and if you need help with anything else. And I look forward to, seeing your end pieces.